probably two of the most important programs that we have initiated take place in the auditorium. And we opened with one project that we did in collaboration with Anton Vidocli of eFlux, which is a continuation of a project he started in Berlin, and it was called Night School. And Night School happened one weekend out of every month, where an artist, a thinker, a philosopher, a critic, a curator was invited in to talk on a particular topic. The first night was the lecture. The second day was a session with experts who were brought in to round it out. And the third day, Sunday, was an open session where the audience and the participants all sat down together and hashed things out, hashed the topic out. And Anton at the end had said at the beginning, I can't, like, this is already a year out of my life, I gotta go back and concentrate on eFlux. But one of the Night School moments was a wonderful artist named Paul Chan. And Paul had developed an obsession with the works of the Marquis de Sade. And he was both horrified and fascinated by how quickly he was sinking into the quicksand of Sadean philosophy. And he chose his Night School version to basically, he opened the conversation up by saying, I don't know what's happening to me, I don't know why I can't kick it. And then went on, and he left himself completely stranded. He was lost at sea. And over the weekend, he began to bring the audience, the people who had enrolled in the class, into the discussion to really help him get through it. We all thought it was the most amazing thing we had ever experienced. And so the next, when it came to this year and we had to reinvent a program, we decided to base it on Paul's class. And so the series is called Propositions, and we invite, again, once a month, artists, thinkers, critics, curators to come in, and we
But to think about this question of audiences and thinking about sort of different spaces brought me, or brought us to the sort of conclusion that there are kinds of shows that relate directly to quote-unquote wider audiences. And that's what Roots, Rhyme, and Rage was getting at. I don't think it quite succeeded because it sort of dumbed down, for lack of a better word, audiences and their ability to look at and interpret contemporary art. So that's something that we tried to do. And what I'm getting at, I guess, is the fact that, you know, there is that overarching theme when you do an exhibition that is somewhat about, say, music or about sport, as in this exhibition that I did just before going to the Menil Collection, this Show the Beautiful Game with Trevor Schoonmaker. You're consciously, I think, saying that we're going to reach out to different audiences. And just by virtue of, like, you know, we called the show One Planet Under a Groove, which is already biting off of like a Parliament song. So you're conjuring an image immediately by using that title that a lot of people are perhaps going to relate to on a musical level. And thinking about the ability for music to perhaps, you know, talk to wider audiences. And then in the case of a show like this, of course, using sport as being this sort of vehicle for discussion, and a vehicle for discussion that is often, you know, not thought of in the place of the gallery or the museum, but more like at the pub, perhaps. And in this show, this was a show that we had two venues for Roebling Hall. One was in Brooklyn and one was in Chelsea. So very, very different audiences were coming into the exhibition. And it was just amazing to see how so many people were coming in with no knowledge of contemporary art, didn't really care for contemporary art, but wanted to know what the score of the game was. And we had the game running throughout the exhibition. So it was like, you know, you come in and you can get that information, but you also got to take in all this other stuff. This is the last show I was doing before taking this position at the Menil Collection. And I think working independently, there's a certain, you can often be sort of thirsty or even for audience because you don't have any built-in audience and you don't necessarily have the machinery of the institution working for you. So this is actually with this show, I mean, Trevor and I were meeting with like the commissioner from Major League Soccer and trying to get them to bring students and to bring kids who are in soccer leagues to come look at the art and the process. You know, they are also taking in something that they already have a deep and abiding interest.
So we also started a program called Young Curators of the Roaring Fork, and I should say that it is based on a program that I saw at Site Santa Fe. We didn't invent it, but we modeled it for ourselves. We've reinvented it, yes, and
repurposed.
Yes, thank you. So we work with high school students, and we train them to be curators. And we work with them through the course of the year, and they ultimately curate an exhibition of their peers. So we have different members of the museum staff come and talk to them about, you know, how we do PR, how we do marketing, why we wear white gloves when we handle artworks, how you come up with an exhibition theme. They devise their own call for proposals, and they jury the show themselves. They install it. They serve as docents for it. They go on the local TV shows, etc. And this is, I think, the 5th year of the program, and we've actually now had, first of all, repeat students, so because you can do it as a 9th grader, 10th grader, whatever. But people have then graduated and gone on to college and are now studying things in the visual literacy field. So we're turning out people not necessarily who will end up as curators, maybe they will, but our program is about visual literacy. So this is them with their white gloves. And Matthew Thompson, who's here with me, my associate curator and partner in crime. We do public programs. Every artist that we show at the museum, we try and bring to the museum to give a free public talk. And we also do some programs that are specifically targeted to artists. I think one of the challenges is when you work in a community, particularly a regional one, the artists always want their work to be shown in the museum more often than it can be. So how do you deal with the local artist phenomena? And so I had a thought that, you know, I think artists have a realistic perspective that, of course, not every artist can have a solo exhibition in the museum, but if they're heard, if they're appreciated, then that's a step in the right direction. So we've done a series of these artist breakfasts, and some are the visual equivalent of the open mic. So you sign up, you bring in your work, you talk about it. But we also have exhibiting artists come and give talks for artists in advance of their shows, in advance of anyone else hearing. We also started an architecture lecture series, and we realized that there were so many different intellectual dialogues happening around Aspen, but no one was really talking about architecture as applied art, and so we brought in 4 architects a year over 3 years to talk about their practice and just sort of elevate the dialogue in the hopes of a new building in Aspen designed by Shigeru Ban. So this is a program that we did in collaboration with the Aspen Music Festival and School. Matthew and I co-organized an exhibition called No Sound, which was silent film and video works, and we asked, this is a very popular music school in the summer, and we asked their composition students if they would compose music to be the soundtracks for these silent films and videos, so work from the 70s to the present, and here they are performing them in the museum with the works projected above. So that was another way to bring in an audience. Often people come to Aspen to hear classical music. They're not interested in contemporary art. They came into the museum, they saw art, they listened to the music, and you know, it's a different kind of opportunity.